So assuming if we have 11, we have enough, we have a quorum and we get started, Amelia?
We do. Go ahead.
Okay, so here we go. Meeting is now called to order. Amelia, you're up with housekeeping.
So good morning and thank you for joining us for our business meeting. This meeting is being recorded. The documents which will be discussed here today are available on the event calendar on our website, which is wmc.wa.gov. I am Amelia Boyd and I am the Program Manager for the Medical Commission. Kayla Bryson and I are the organizers for this meeting. Panelists, please be sure to mute yourself if you are not speaking. Attendees are automatically muted. Please note that anything posted to the chat or question section is considered public record. Excuse me. We will take public comment at this meeting. Once we get to that item, the chair, Mr. Malden, will read a script and then ask for public comment. If you would like to comment, please raise your hand or use the raise your hand feature or simply speak up if you are calling in. I don't think we have any call-ins today. Our time for public comment is limited and each speaker is likely to only have about 2 minutes to speak. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to me at amelia.boyd@wmc.wa.gov. And with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Malden for his chair report.
Thank you, Amelia. So Melanie, Stephanie, and I met with the WSMA Executive Committee. I'm not exactly sure what their title is, but at least the WSMA Executive Leadership Team. I'm happy to report that it was a very cordial meeting. Went well, I thought. There was a opportunity, I think, to create a more closer link with WSMA, trying to use an offer to be a little more collaborative. And I think they've asked for some additional information. I'm sure that Melanie will, when she starts talking later, will discuss some of the things that she intends to do to help facilitate our relationship with WSMA, which I think is a very positive thing that's getting started. And not that it hasn't been there before, but I think there's a willingness now on part of the WSMA to really work collaboratively with the commission. So a very positive meeting. And I was happy that it didn't result in some adverse, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do two screens here. Didn't result in an adverse relationship between the two committees. So good work by all. This is the month to announce the nominating committee, and it seems a little early in the process, but really not. The schedule is nominating committee is announced at this meeting, and when I'm saying nominating committee for the executive committee. So this month we announced the nominating committee. In April, at the April meeting, we'll announce candidates, and in the May meeting, we'll have an election. Did I get that right, Amelia?
Yes.
Good, I got something right for a change. So the nominating committee is Christine Blake, Karen Domino, and Alden Roberts. Next item. Where did my notes go? The next item is that the executive committee, at the request of staff, authorized a pilot project for providing WMC furnished laptops. So we've had a pilot going on for about a month now. The reason is that so many commissioners are using a variety of laptops that aren't necessarily compatible with the DOH systems, which has been driving Mike Hively loony bins and causing substantial frustration on the part of commissioners to stay tuned in to do their work. And I'm happy to report that for the most part, the early indication is that the laptops are working pretty well after a few early hiccups for setup reasons. With the exception of one of our commissioners had some slight damage to his hammer in an attempt to fix his laptop. But other than that, that little problem that's been working out pretty well. So I'm not exactly sure what the process is next, but maybe Melanie will talk about that also during her report. The executive committee also discussed the strategies for moving forward with developing the strategic plan. We had lots of good ideas. I know we settled anything, and I'm sure Melanie will discuss this additionally. But this time, I think at the urging of Dr. Roberts, we're going to do two things. One is it's the strategic plan for the commission as a whole, but also a strategic plan for commissioners themselves. So getting into commissioner responsibilities, duties and responsibilities, and so forth, and develop a plan based upon a document that's already in place that says duties and responsibilities of commissioners. So we'll look into that a little bit. Alden sent me some random thoughts. I threw some random thoughts on his document, and we both agreed that was pretty good. I'd like to make it look a little cleaner, a little nicer, and then I will share that with the executive committee, and hopefully it'll be incorporated into our strategic plan work. I know I was going to talk about something else, but I've lost my notes. No, here they are. Let's see. No, I think that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? I see one person shaking her head. Teresa, thank you for that, the acknowledgement. Okay. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. There are two items on the consent agenda. One is the approval of the January 15th business meeting minutes and approval of today's business meeting agenda. Would anyone like to make an motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Move to adopt.
Moved. Do we have a second? All in favor? Say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is new business, and we have a training opportunity that was provided by Heather Carter. Heather?
Yeah, can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I'm going to attempt to show my screen here. Hopefully you can see this. And I will start the slideshow. So I was just going to do a quick sort of 10 minutes little overview of the Ethics and Public Service Act. I'm just going to pick out sort of three of the items that I think apply most to you. There are lots and lots of topics in the Ethics Act, but I'm just going to pick three today and just do a quick little refresher. So the Code of Ethics is a statute. It was enacted in 1995, and the Commission and commissioners are subject to the Act. So the first topic is conflicts of interest. So state officers, which you are one, should not have a financial interest or engage in activities that conflict with your duties as a commission member. And most often, the commission will see these come up when you are in a disciplinary case. And you can cure a conflict of interest by recusing yourself from that case, or there may be a policy or some rules that you may have a conflict, but you can just recuse yourself and cure that conflict. So some examples are, say you have a disciplinary case where a close friend or relative is involved in the case, either a patient or a physician or PA. You may have a business partner or close colleague that may be the same patient that you've treated before. Those are all conflicts of interest that you should recuse yourself from that case. It's not a conflict, say, if you are the same specialty as the respondent or even the same hospital system. You really need to have, there needs to be a close connection. And if this comes up and you're not quite sure, always you can ask me, you can ask staff, and we'll sort of work through whether or not it would be needed or advisable to recuse yourself from a case. Conflicts of interest also could come up if you were, say, trying to be an expert in a case before the commission. That you couldn't do that, do expert witnesses in front of the commission. That would be a conflict. So basically, we want to avoid even the perception that there's a conflict to make sure that the public has trust in the commission that you're doing your job without these conflicts. So the second item or topic is special privileges. So state officer can't use your position to secure a special privileges. For yourself or any other person. The law specifically talks about family members, and for board and commission members is using your title. So you need to be careful when you're using your title as a commissioner that you aren't using it in a way that hasn't been authorized by the full commission. So you can't speak on behalf of the full commission unless something has been voted on or decided. Also using it in letters. We've seen people, write on their signature block, commissioner. Just make sure that you're not using the title inappropriately, that it somehow, there would be a perception that you're getting some sort of special privilege or special credibility for using the title. Of course, it's okay to use, list the fact that you're on a commission on a CV or something like that. Or, I mean, you don't have to deny that you're on the commission, but just don't, you don't want that perception that you're using it for some special benefit. And the last topic, excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. The last topic is lobbying. So commissioners are prohibited in their official capacity from lobbying an elected official to support or oppose an initiative or a bill. But you can provide information on behalf of the commission, provide information and expertise and opinions to elected officials. You can provide concerns and talk about what are implications of certain bills or outcomes, but the commission and you as commissioners can't say, we don't support this bill and we fight for it to be defeated. And one thing to separate is there's also, you as a private citizen obviously can lobby and do still have a voice as a citizen to talk about your opinions or on behalf of a different organization. But you just want to be sure that you state that you're not there on behalf of the commission, to make sure that there's no perception that you are lobbying on behalf of the commission. But just make sure that if you're doing so as as a private citizen in your personal capacity, that you make that clear. So that was really all I had. Oh, sorry, one more slide. There are in the statute, if you violate these, and there's a executive ethics board, which Melanie actually, prior to being with the commission, was executive director of that. So she's sort of your resident expert, but there are penalties for violating the ethics board. So that is all I had today, but I just wanted to go through those topics. If anyone has any questions, please ask me. Melanie, like I said, is your resident expert. She can help you work through any issues that you might encounter. And I will answer any questions if you want later. You can always email me, call me, and I'm happy to work through any questions you have. So that's it. Thank you.
Questions for Heather? Thank you, Heather. That was a good reminder, especially the last slide. The next item is structure of future meetings, and I'm going to assume Melanie has something to say about that.
I believe that might be more of an Amelia question, and this might be that we're still in virtual mode until at least the end of June, and then I don't know. I think it will depend upon the vaccination schedule and how state agencies are reacting to that schedule. We do not believe that our staff will be able to return to the workplace until after the 1st of July. And even at that point, I believe that most of us who can work from home will still remain working from home a majority of the time. We are pursuing an in-person educational conference in October. We're looking for venues right now. We will obviously have in our contract, if we come up with a place, you know, the ability to cancel if we still do not want to have an in-person educational conference. Maybe some of you have gotten vaccinated, I still haven't been able to do that, but if you're in healthcare, I know that you probably have been able to get those vaccines. Teresa, do you have a question?
I did. Can you hear me, Melanie?
Yes.
Do you remember when we were talking about the plan for the new building and the remodel and all of that stuff? What does this do to that plan?
Well, it pretty much changes it. For example, the Department of Health is looking at consolidating a lot of people from different buildings on the campus into a smaller footprint. And they have come out with a policy in that if you are a staff member and you do not work in the office 3 days or more, you will not be assigned a space. You will be able to come in and what they call is hotel, which is take your laptop in from home and use a shared space. So I believe that our whole space genre and ideas and atmosphere will change drastically once we look at how many folks are going to come back into the building on a permanent basis and how many folks will be actually working from home the majority of the time.
Thank you.
I don't even know what I was talking about. Oh, meetings. So Amelia, do you have anything else to add on that? Right now, we're all still virtual until after the 1st of July. And then it's still pretty iffy as to whether or not we will have in-person meetings anytime soon.
So the one thing we have to keep in mind is we have to be in phase 4 in order for us to have in-person meetings, because we usually have about 50 people per meeting. So we have to be in that phase before we can even schedule something in person for the full group. So we have to keep that in mind. What this is really about is, you know, how do we want to structure our meetings when we are able to meet in person? Do we want to do a hybrid? Do we want to only have it in person? There is a bill, Melanie may be able to provide more information about that because I haven't been tracking it, that said that we had to have a hybrid in the future. We had to have a virtual option for meetings in the future. So it may be that we're forced to have a hybrid. So that's really what my ask was here, is to sort of talk about what we want our meetings to look like when we are able to start meeting in person.
Yes, there is a bill going through the ledge, and it made it out of its house of origin and is in the opposite house. So it is still viable. It has been amended. It was originally focused on local governments, but it doesn't include all state government agencies as well. And this bill would require, if we went back to in-person meetings, which is fine and dandy, it would also require that we have a live stream virtual option at the same time for the public who cannot travel to the meeting. And if we are in a venue that has cameras and has the ability for us to do that, it's not a big deal. For example, at the Capitol Event Center, there are cameras in that room that we could use to live stream or Zoom the meeting to the public. If, however, we were at a hotel, for example, like the Hilton, we would have to bring our own equipment in and run our own cameras and figure all that out, which we've not done in the past, but we could certainly do that going forward. It would cost some money to buy the cameras, but it's not that big of a deal. When we come back to the ability to have in-person meetings, there are still some types of meetings that you may prefer to have virtually. For example, Amelia and I both really like the rules workshops that are done virtually because you are able to provide information to a larger pool of people. They have the ability to talk or raise their hand or write a question or a chat. And it seems like we have more people, the public, attend those types of rulemaking meetings. And so those you might want to continue doing them virtually, even when you can do them in person. So I believe, you know, you need to decide at some point, not now because we're not at phase 4 yet, whether or not you want to just go all back to all in person or have some sort of hybrid types of meetings.
It seems like a combination makes a whole lot of sense, particularly for shorter meetings, like some of the rulemaking meetings that might last an hour to 2 hours. That certainly makes a whole lot of sense rather than having a whole bunch of commissioners travel a long distance. But I think it also depends on what the topic is and how much interest is involved and how likely those meetings might be. So what I was going to ask, and maybe you already said this, do we have camera equipment already that in order for us to do a live stream type of a meeting?
No, we don't have that currently. No, we'd have to purchase it. And then we would probably have to hire a staff person to actually do that during the meeting because Amelia she can't run the meeting and run the cameras and be the producer and be the actor and everything. So we would probably have to hire one additional staff. And we actually put that in the fiscal note for that bill review. So that is part of the bill.
That surprises me. She does everything else. Teresa, you have a question?
I do. Melanie, what about renting that out, you know, or leasing that out, contracting that out to have the videographer and all of that set up? I know they do that for some of the bigger conferences.
Right. We've done that for our educational conferences, and it costs us a lot of money, like $10,000 per meeting. So we didn't want to go down that road. I mean, if we want to have really clear types of videos that we post to our website that people can watch in perpetuity, then we think it's worth hiring a videographer. But to run, you know, not that y'all aren't, you know, Academy Award winning group, but I don't think that we need to have that high amount of money to do a video for a live stream. So that's kind of, it comes down to a fiscal issue.
I think I saw another hand. Your picture is gone, but somebody else had a comment, I think.
It was Karen Domino. Sorry, I've made it all you guys really small on my screen because even though I'm at the university, plugged into the wall, it says the internet's too slow. Anyway, I was saying I kind of like the hybrid thing. I think I did. It just seems, I like the personal contact of a regular meeting, but there's a lot of travel involved, there are hotel expenses, and I've been impressed that a lot of these have worked fairly well. So I would think some sort of adjustment of, you know, some hybrid, some personal meetings would work well. Also, I'm looking at my calendar up here on my wall by my desk, and it's 2021 meeting schedule. I don't think there's any way we're going to be able to have a meeting that's in the Capitol Event Center on July 8th, 9th, and August 19th, 20th. I would just assume, just from what I keep hearing, and we're talking about phase 4 too, to be able to have this sort of meeting. I would just make those virtual and see what happens with the December.
I
Thank you,
agree.
Karen.
Yeah.
Alden, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, there are some meetings that I think don't lend themselves as well. And the ones that come to mind, or the majority of the personal appearances, I think would benefit from being in front of us. There is a subset that can be done remotely, but I think the majority need to be done. So I don't think we can throw out the meetings where we get together completely. And I think the best we could end up with is a hybrid. But I also agree that it's not likely to happen in July.
I agree. Personal appearances are really, you lose the whole meaning, I think, on a virtual process. In person, you get to see body language and expressions and everything else. So I'm in agreement with that. Other comments, ideas? Okay, thank you for that. Let's move on. Next item is committee work group reports. Written reports are in your packet. Are there additional comments from chairs of committees?
I don't have anything to add to the health disparities work group, although we did meet for the first time yesterday, finally, after trying at least 4 times. I think that meeting was cursed, but we finally got together. We have a plan to move forward. But what I did want to say is our Dr. Curry was selected by the Federation of State Medical Boards to be on the FSMB's ad hoc task force on health equity and medical regulation. So that's a shout out to Dr. Curry. She was also part of a webinar that they put on about a month and a half ago regarding health disparities. And so I just want to say we are being represented well.
Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
Any other committee announcements? Okay. Apologies to Amelia on the agenda. I got a little ahead of myself on the nominating committee. That's already done. So let's move
No worries.
let's move to rulemaking activities.
So the rulemaking act.
I think you disappeared on us.
We can't hear you.
Perhaps we should reconsider virtual meetings.
She's frozen.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, I know
Amelia,
she's got a lot of...
Amelia, put your hand up if you can hear us.
She's
frozen.
She's frozen.
She's frozen. Okay, well, we'll come back to Amelia. Let's move on to lists and labels. And I think tradition is that Heather comments on lists and labels.
Yeah, this should be a fast one. Your request is from the Pierce County Medical Society, which is a professional association, so I recommend approval.
Move to approve.
Second. Thank you, Teresa. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. You back with us, Amelia?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. So for the rulemaking progress report, it is in the packet. You probably saw some emails from me recently. We have 7 rulemaking workshops scheduled from April the 7th until mid-June. We do have enough panelists for all of those now. So if you volunteered to be on those panels, thank you so much. We will do a lot of rules work this year, and all of those meetings will be virtual. I see even after July, we'll probably keep them all virtual, like Melanie said, because it's just so much more efficient, and it does leave us, it gives us more opportunity to have comments from the public. So that's all for the rulemaking report.
Thank you. It's now time for public comment. I don't know if we have any of the public have joined us since we started, but I will read the public comment script. We will now begin the portion of the business meeting to take public comment. The purpose is to allow members of the public to directly address the commission on issues of public concern. Please refrain from providing comments on pending or open investigations or disciplinary cases. We will not be answering questions or responding. Staff will be available after the meeting to answer your questions. Please understand that although the time period for comment during the business meeting is limited, the public can attend and provide comment at commission committee meetings. The public can also contact staff during normal business hours. We welcome written comments as well. Each commenter will have 2 minutes to speak. When you comment, please state your name and who you represent. Would anyone like to comment at this time? Hearing none, I'm assuming we don't have any members of the public. This concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. I want to thank you. This concludes our meeting. Public portion of our meeting. We'll move on to member reports. Are there comments, questions, issues to be raised by commissioners?
We need to do have we done the policy committee yet?
Oh, I'm really in a hurry today. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dr. Domino?
Yes, hi. Unfortunately, I got rid of everyone, viewing everyone. So if you guys do have a question or comment, please yell it out or so, because I can't see you just due to the internet issues. So the first report is policy of practitioners exhibiting disruptive behavior. You also were sent an update of this. The policy committee approved it. The document was really quite excellent. We had discussed this prior meeting, and Mike Farrell and Dr. Bundy went through and made a lot of substantial changes and improved the document. As far as what is in your packet versus what was sent via email, there are 2 minor changes that the policy committee approved. One is on page 2 of the 5 pages of this document. Line 2, paragraph 1, we wanted to say some physicians. Studies have shown that some physicians demonstrating disruptive behavior have subsequently been diagnosed with a range of psychiatric disorders and medical disorders, etc. And the other change is on Appendix A. We gave it a title, and it's on page 4 of this document. And we wanted to make it clear that the list included there of the aggressive and passive aggressive behaviors are simply examples. So we added examples of disruptive behavior include, but are not limited to the following. So we approve this document. And is there any discussion? Mr. Malden, maybe you could lead that if you call on people or someone, because I can't see anyone because I had to disable the webcams.
I can't see anyone either, but does anybody have any questions or comments on the new wording, the new language, the revisions that were made? We spent a fair amount of time on this yesterday, and so this new and improved version seemed to address all concerns of individuals on the policy committee, but that doesn't mean everybody had a chance. I know Mike sent this out, so you had a chance to see it before this morning. But again, any other comments or questions?
Ms. Schimmels has her hand up.
Oh, okay. I can't see Teresa right now. Go ahead, Teresa.
I just want to say that this looks really comprehensive and I really liked it. I read it in the email. yesterday. So good job, policy committee. This is a tough subject for sure.
It has been tested recently. Other comments, questions? Okay,
I have a question.
Claire?
Yeah. There's one thing, have we run this past anybody from the AG's office who have had to address this in hearings and have had some success with that? In other words, is it comprehensive enough evaluated by our legal staff who have had to defend or not defend, but have had to fight this in court? It'd be nice to just have them take a look at it at some point.
Mike, has anyone from the Attorney General's office looked at this?
I ran this by the legal unit, but I did not run it by the Attorney General's office. I assume that Heather has looked at it, but I am happy to run it by Tracy Baum and her group and get their thoughts.
Yeah, I think Tracy would have unique insights into this, and she may have something to add or subtract. Is this something they might be able to use in the hearing?
Yes, I'm glad you raised that. I included in the packet the Maravetla case, published decision from the Court of Appeals, and I encourage all of you to read it. But in that case, the court quoted the commission policy on disruptive behavior, the previous version, very favorably, and our expert relied on it at hearing to call this disruptive behavior, to set the standard of care, and the Court of Appeals gave this implicit approval. So if you haven't read that case, I would read it. And yes, this document will help in hearings in the future.
Great.
Are we able to, Mike, have a conditional approval? We do this in the IRBs where it doesn't necessarily have to come back to us if they have any, as long as they want to approve it. If they have changes, then it would obviously come back. What do you think?
I would recommend that if you're satisfied with the document, approve it today. I will bring it to Tracy. If she has concerns, I can bring it back. If she doesn't, then I don't need to bring it back.
Okay.
Sounds perfect.
That sounds great. So any other comments for that? Again, I can't see you, but speak out.
I think it's a great document, and I would move to approve it.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So all in favor?
Now, we already did that, Karen.
Yes, we'll say.
Must have checked out momentarily while we had a vote.
Great. Well, the second, what? I'm sorry?
We're ready for the next item. I think
No, I was
you might
here.
be.
The next one is panel composition. And this one we recommend it working on it. And so Mike I will.
I'm not understanding anything.
Karen, I think you're still having audio problems. Go with your video problems.
I think if I could jump in, the policy committee decided that this document needs a little bit more work. I'm going to work on it between now and the next meeting. If anybody has any suggestions on improvement or feedback, please send it to me and I will bring it back to policy next meeting.
Thank you for that, Mike.
It looks like we've lost Dr. Domino.
Mike, can you continue?
Yeah, happy to. The committee reviewed the policy on self-treatment or treatment of immediate family members. This is just the regular 4-year review. The committee didn't see the need to make any changes. The only change that was made, you probably see there, is in the footnote. This policy comes almost verbatim from the AMA policy, and they revised their code of ethics and renumbered it, so I changed the numbering. So the only suggested change is in the footnote.
I would move to approve it.
The second. Thank you, Terry. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Raise your hand. Opposed? It's adopted. Next.
The last item is a 4-year review of the completion of death certificates by physicians and PAs. This again has no recommended changes. As background, the commission had a lengthy guideline on completing death certificates back in 2016. The department came up with a lengthy guideline, a very good one, for all practitioners, licensed practitioners to follow. And the commission in 2017 decided to merely adopt the DOH guideline and refer to it. So that's what this document does. And the committee made no recommendations for change.
Move to approve.
Second, we have a second. Thanks, Scott. All in favor, signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Document adopted. So that's it for the policy committee. Karen, did you come back? Apparently not.
It doesn't look like it. Sorry.
Now, member reports. So, commission members, items to discuss, question, bring up, inform us. Dr. Small?
Yeah, so can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
I do want to mention I saw Jim doing the Vulcan hand signal here. So I just want to mention, and I suspect most or all of you are aware of this, but in the background, so to speak, of the COVID pandemic, there has been a very significant parallel mental health and substance use disorder pandemic. The mental health utilization, substance use disorder utilization has skyrocketed, both locally, regionally, and across the country. Data that I have access to in my work at Premier just shows a huge jump in utilization. Various national organizations, the American Psychiatric Association, for example, have reported close to a third, 33% increase in suicide attempts and completed suicide during the pandemic. I think there's been quite a bit of press around the fact that opioid overdose deaths have increased substantially. It's not likely that this will go away when the pandemic itself is hopefully over. So just FYI for awareness, I just wanted to mention that. It's a very significant issue.
Thank you for that. That's not something I've heard a lot about. I've heard about increased substance use, not necessarily increased deaths. There's a lot of discussion about suicide, but not a lot of statistics. So thank you for bringing that up. That's interesting. Not a good thing, but interesting to hear.
You know, Bob, I think the impact on adolescents is really huge. It's so important for them to individuate and be with their peer group. And I think that they're contributing quite a bit to this increase in mental health problems.
Yeah, I think that's true, Claire, and the data that I've seen shows the greatest increase in the groups that traditionally have the highest rate of suicide, which is adolescents, young adults, in the geriatric population. So I think you're absolutely right on there.
Yeah.
Yang Ling? You seem to be muted. Let's come back to Yang Ling when she corrects her technical difficulties. Anyone else have a topic to bring up?
Dr. Chung has his hand up, Mr. Malden.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see everybody. Go ahead, Dr. Chung.
Well, speaking of COVID, I just wanted to share that there's a lot of questions about whether or not the distancing and masking over the winter has been effective, especially during the surge, which was much larger than even the summer surge. And as many of you may have already heard, this winter we had the lowest incidence of regular flu. I'm not sure how to even call it. In fact, at Providence, we were measuring the incidence of flu in our facilities, and whereas normally around in the month of February, we would have seen about 2,000, 2,500 positive influenza tests. We saw a total of, I believe, 4 out of approximately 3,500 tests administered. We had 4 positive tests for the flu. And the only explanation for this would be all of the distancing and masking and such that we practiced this year. So it really makes me wonder what the COVID surge might have looked like if we didn't do the masking and distancing. When it was so effective in preventing the flu, it must have been also effective at spreading COVID even more than it did. Now that's just within our own organization, which is spread across Washington, Oregon, Montana, California, and Texas, and Alaska. So just within our own facilities, we saw that low of a flu incident. So I think it's pretty clear that the practice of distancing, hand hygiene, masking is effective in preventing transmissible diseases. And I hope that we can continue to spread that message to the public who even now are still split on the idea of whether or not masking has been effective. So this is one more example of how some of the clinical evidence that we're seeing now that would support the practices that we've recommended.
It's interesting to see a number of states now saying that masks are not mandated, which just really surprises me. We're not there yet, but that's really unfortunate. Dr. Yu, I see you have your telephone in hand. Can you want to make a comment now? I don't think your telephone's working either. While she's working on her phone, Dr. Wallace?
Just an observation. You may all follow this, but the CDC announces changes for national implementation, and then it takes a week or two or three for local authorities to comply or change their regulatory status related to, and we're talking COVID regulation here. So recently, CDC on February 1st announced that if a medical provider has been doubly inoculated and gets exposed to a patient or a coworker with COVID, the CDC said the medical provider does not have to quarantine, does not have to test, can continue to work. But the local authorities lagged behind a week or two or even more, so that, let's say, Pierce County and the DOH didn't change their regulatory statement on what an exposed healthcare provider that's been vaccinated should do in terms of quarantine and testing. So, and that's happened a few times over this past year, but now it's actually impacts providers more than before, because with the vaccination, you want to keep those healthcare providers in the workplace if they don't pose a threat to others, and they don't, according to the CDC. Yet the local authorities and our own DOH doesn't change their regulatory statement on local healthcare providers, and then the local healthcare provider doesn't know, or their employer doesn't know how to handle it, and they can end up getting the local healthcare provider into trouble if they continue to work, despite the CDC relaxing their regulation on that. So I thought I'd just bring that up as an interesting conundrum.
Yang Ling, are you now capable of calling in? Well, while we're waiting for Yang Ling once again, does anyone else have a comment or something for the good of the meeting?
Ms. Blake has her hand up.
Thank you.
Well, if there's any good thing, if anything good could have come out of this coronavirus, we have had some better air quality. We have had some better wildlife protection. We have had a few things that were positive that did occur. So there might be a little tiny bit of what we as humans can understand about what we've done to our environment just with the pollution that we gave it. So I did read that it stopped in the commercial activity and everything that we did in the shut off. Nature took that advantage and had improvements in air, cleaner water, and a few other things. So maybe just keep in mind what we've done around us ourselves.
An opportunity to continue in the same vein to improve our air and water. Yang Ling, see your phone is to.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yay! 3 tries. Thank you, John. I guess what I'm gonna say is important. I want to say it, but anyway, I just don't know. I don't know if anywhere aware that Washington Patient Safety Coalition is gonna host in partner with Washington Medical Association and Washington Hospital Association to host a diagnostic excellence webinar series. And basically is they have speakers from Kaiser Permanente Healthcare Innovation Team. And the first webinar is going to be on March 23rd. And they have a 3 series about diagnostic error. We all know it's so important. They affect 12 million Americans, and each year about 40 to 80,000 people died from diagnostic error. I think especially during the COVID, there were many COVID, they call the long hauler, and some of them they have a lingering symptoms and being discounted. And sometimes people, we just don't understand this very much, and sometimes involve misdiagnosis. So I just want to have anyone have, be interested in or spread the word about these 3 sessions. And the last session is about patient engagement with the diagnostic process, because, for diagnosis, you have to listen to patients and families about their medical history. That's what this is about. So I just want to pass the word.
Thank you, Yanling, and thank you for your persistence in overcoming your technical difficulties.
I hope now next time.
Okay. Again, I can't see hands of everybody, so if anybody else has a comment? Scott?
Oh yeah, you see him. Never mind.
I just want to underscore Dr. Chung's comment about the effectiveness of masks and social distancing. I'm sure we're looking at the same data, but to underscore that, to put it into perspective, we usually have roughly 200 pediatric deaths from influenza during a season to date, and that season ends. They stop counting, the season ends in April. To date, we have 1 in this season. Hospitalization rates that's a little more complicated to weed out pneumonia from influenza, and also we've been intentionally making differences in who's admitted and who's not, but we usually have 500,000, and I believe we're down to just a few thousand for this season. So if there's any question about the effectiveness of masks, we can look to flu.
That is interesting this year.
Well, I will be glad when we can do away with this 10-foot social distancing separation and I can get back to my normal 20-foot separation.
Dr. Roberts will be producing some extension poles for you. We have a 10-foot pole. Mr. Malden, I had one more thing that I wanted to point out. I wonder if I can call on either Ms. Bush or Mr. Farrell to comment on the upcoming webinar that on medical errors that we're hosting on March 25th.
Sure. So we have a CME coming up. It is going to be on Thursday, March 25th. We kind of have a panel of folks that are coming, so it's or that are going to be speaking. So it's Dr. Chung, Mr. Malden, Mr. Farrell. Did I forget anyone? But yeah, so it's called the Error Reduction and the Future of Communication and Resolution Programs. And basically the educational objectives of this are recognizing how open and empathetic communication reduces adverse events, and kind of talk about, I'm sorry, I don't know why my dog's going, and discuss how to disseminate lessons learned from CRP. So it's really kind of, taking a look back on WMC's work on reducing medical error, the science behind CRP and why it fosters error reduction, and just kind of some other resources that the WMC can provide for folks. So that's kind of the big picture. Like I said, it's Thursday, March 25th at 4. It's on our website. I can send it out to everyone. Feel free to disseminate and attend as needed. But Mr. Farrell, if you have anything to add or any questions, I'm happy to help.
You summarized it well.
So if anyone's interested in an exciting webinar, tune in. Oh, sorry, I was talking while muted. Other comments? Okay, let's move on to staff reports. Written reports begin on page 60. I assume everybody read those, but I know Melanie can't wait to talk about some things, so we'll call on her first.
Thank you. So I want to talk about three things that Mr. Malden touched on previously. One is we did have a wonderful meeting with WMC about a month ago. We are moving forward, and staff will be meeting with representatives from WMC on a monthly basis to talk about issues, priorities, collaborations. So we have already set those monthly meetings up. One of the things that they wanted us to do is to provide more transparency into our processes. So I agreed to do a series of newsletter articles talking about our processes to let the readers know kind of a little look behind the curtain. I've started this upcoming newsletter will have a article about complaint intake and CMT. And so I kind of talk about what we do as a staff and what the commissioners do. And then I will go on and talk about investigations and then the legal process, compliance, and then licensing. So there will be a series of articles going forward. The other issue that they were talking about is some conflicts of interest that they had they thought about regarding some of our actions of our commissioners. I brought Heather in this morning to talk about conflicts of interest, to talk about special privilege. So if you have any questions going forward on whether something is or is not a conflict of interest, please let me know. And I can either let you know based upon my experience with the ethics board, or I can contact the ethics board and get an official written opinion from them. It's very easy to do. That's one of their jobs.
Melanie?
Yes.
Melanie? It's Alden. Just to sort of put things in perspective, I did 3 articles on how we work, and they were fairly extensive articles. They included how CMT works, what our intake process is, et cetera. So I understand that they are concerned about transparency, but we have tried to be as transparent as we can be. And I would also, in addition to the articles that you're getting ready to put out, which I think are important, I would refer them to what has been out in the past, because I don't think, I'm not sure how we can be much more transparent. And as we talked about in the executive committee, I think it would be important to look to other measures, such as getting together with them rather than just looking to our newsletter, because our newsletter clearly isn't reaching everybody that it needs to reach.
Right, and that's why we have set up monthly meetings between myself and Jeb to talk about issues and transparency and what's coming up, as well as licensing. We're going to be doing a little collaboration with them on the licensing process as well. So I'm sorry, go ahead. I
was just going to say that the message hasn't really changed. I think they've gotten the information in the past. I'm wondering if it's change of leadership, change of their executive team, or there's not continuity in what the commission does, because they brought up the same old stuff during this last meeting, even though Alden did a great job in providing information in newsletters. Doesn't get read, maybe not, who knows. But I think this closer working with WMC at this point in time by staff is excellent, so that we can get issues hammered out early, bring them to the executive committee, talk about them, see what we can do to continue to improve the relationship between the commission and WSMA.
Yeah, anything we can do to get out how we do what we do, because I actually think we do a remarkably good job. And it is unfortunate that people don't understand what we do and don't see how it's done. It's not for lack of trying, and I think that trying to work through WSMA is a good start. I don't know if there's anything else that we should be thinking of in terms of how to get it out the way we do things, but that's at least a good start. I think it's going to take more than an article, but I think meeting with them is good.
Well, we are doing many things to get the word out to folks. We have coffee with the commission that kind of focuses in on one aspect of what the commission does. And those are, you know, virtual meetings that people can attend. I think the articles are good to have every few years because our readership changes. My article will also have some infographics and process maps, so there'll be some visual aspects of the process as well for those that are more virtual or more visual learners. So, you know, we'll just keep doing the articles, and hopefully, you know, it'll build momentum. One of the other things that Mr. Malden brought up was our strategic plan. I am getting the staff.
No, before you go on, Dr. Small had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just
No,
going.
thanks, John. So I just want to make a comment, and this is not meant to be negative, but we're approaching this from the perspective of the avenues of communication that we think practitioners want to hear. I don't know that we've asked them what avenue of communication would work best for them. So in my work at Primera, when the issues come up, we try and pull focus groups together of our network providers to get their input. That's not necessarily easy to do, but I would at least suggest considering doing something like that, because perhaps there's some other avenues of communication we're not even thinking about that will work better for the folks that we want to get this information to.
Great, Bob. Thank you.
That's a great idea, Bob.
Well, and
Claire?
I think that, oh, sorry.
Claire has a hand up. You might be on mute, Claire.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, it said the organizer muted me. I'll try not to take it personally. I think that one of the things that Bob brings up, I think we should look at what are they really asking us. I get the idea from what Alden was saying. We've kind of tried to be open, and that's not necessarily fulfilling what they're trying to get at. In some ways, I think they want to have impact on what we do, some control over what we do, or a sense that they have more input into what we do. I don't have a solution for it, but I think that we may not be answering their need, and we may not be able to. But it feels like they keep asking us for something, and they may not even know what they want to ask us for. I'm just saying.
One of the
things
things
miscommunication
one of the
about
things
what they
that
really need from us.
One of the things they continue to talk about, and it's obvious, they don't like the disciplinary process, which
right.
which means they don't fully understand it. So.
Well, and again, one of the things that we're doing is I will be working with Jeb on our strategic plan and having them, you know, what does collaboration mean for WSMA and the commission? How do they perceive that kind of collaboration? And we will be working on a goal for our strategic plan that WSMA has that will be a WSMA goal. So I think that will be helpful to kind of get from their perspective, what does collaboration look like? What is it that their members are looking at the commission for? Is it education? Is it understanding the processes? What is it exactly that they're looking for? Is it better licensing times? Those kinds of things. So we're going to, once we get our strategic plan outline, I'm going to ask Jeb to get with WSMA and help us put a goal together that is just between the commission and and WSMA. I think that will be helpful. The other thing that Mr. Malden talked about this morning was the pilot on the laptop. So 7 commissioners are currently piloting DOH-issued laptops. They've used them for about a month and a half now. We wanted them to use them through this meeting to see whether or not having DOH-issued laptops made their work with the commission easier. We will get their feedback after this meeting. If it is significantly better than trying to use your own devices, then the decision has been made to issue all commissioners, all appointed commissioners, a laptop that you will get once you become appointed, and you will turn in when your term ends. Obviously, we have regular updates of laptops every few years, so we would update them, and you would get a wireless mouse. So if you wanted a headset or a keyboard, you would have to furnish that yourself. Hively has been working with everyone to try to get commissioners' IT issues updated, but you have a plethora of devices. There are people that have tried to stream on their Kindle, which doesn't work. So, I mean, he doesn't know how to fix your iPad or how to fix, I mean, he's actually my information liaison, and he does a great job, but he can't help everybody. So if we go with DOH issued laptops, they're right now, the exec committee is testing them, as well as Dr. Small. You look great, Dr. Small. I like the picture, great background. And Dr. Turman also have one. And so we will get their feedback, and then we will move forward either way. So that's kind of the pilot project on the laptops. That's pretty much all I have in addition to my report.
Want to mention anything about strategic plan?
Oh, well, yes. So I have the staff working on putting together sort of a straw man strategic plan outline. The exec committee wanted the staff to kind of put together sort of an administrative overview of goals and objectives, and then we will bring it back. So here's how the plan works. The exec committee reviews the mission, vision, values. Then we try to put some bones together and some goals. It goes to a work group of the commission, and because it's virtual, we could have different work groups looking at different goals and getting input on that. Eventually, once we get a draft of the plan, it goes to the policy committee. They look at it, and finally, the entire commission votes on the strategic plan. So there are a lot of work groups and input along the way, but the staff is working right now to kind of give you a straw man to sort of start your review. We've determined through past strategic planning projects that just giving you a blank piece of paper is not very helpful. You kind of like to have something to start with and then to move from there. So that's what we are doing, and we hope to have that together in the next couple of months.
Thank you, Melanie. Are there other updates from staff?
Me. This is Amelia. So I just wanted to, I know that this virtual environment has been a little confusing and all of that, but I did get several emails asking for links yesterday to, mostly to the Lunch and Learn. I just wanted to remind everybody that the link is always going to be in the agenda for the Lunch and Learn. And commissioners, you are always set up as panelists for this meeting, so you're automatically registered. So you don't need to register for the business meeting. And the same is true of the policy meeting. If you're on policy, you're automatically registered. So you get an email with a unique link for you to join the meeting. And then the personal appearances, as you can see on the screen, are always, those links are always in the agenda as well. So I just wanted to remind everybody of that. We're not sending out the flow chart anymore because it was causing some issues for folks, and the information changes for every meeting. And so if I miss a letter or a number, it messes everyone up. So we're not doing that for the time being. The flow chart was really for when we're in person, so everybody knows what room they're supposed to be in. So but I just wanted to let you know that those links are there if you need them.
Amelia?
Thank you, Amelia. I looked everywhere yesterday at 12:30 except for the agenda, so I missed.
Yeah.
I will remember that from now on.
Teresa, did you have a question?
Yeah, I didn't realize we were switching from the flow chart too, so I was looking all over. I was obviously not available yesterday, but I got a separate email for this meeting, but I like to see too that you have in the afternoon the links for the go-to meetings are on the are in the panel meeting agenda packet. So thanks for letting us know that there's no flow chart anymore.
Yeah, sorry.
Karen is back and has her hand up, and then Alden as well.
Yeah, I had to switch computers. Anyway, so Amelia, I did know it was in the meeting agenda, but I didn't know what page it was on. And it did take me a little while. So I just want to point out to people where I found it is under the page discussing the policy committee meeting. Is there somewhere else that it is? Because I had to go through the document to be able to find that, which is an extra step.
Which link are you asking about? There's several. So.
Oh, that was for the one for the business for the lunch and learn thing. Where is
the lunch and learn? Let me unpause my screen. It will always be on the very first page where it talks about the lunch and learn.
Okay, thanks. Because I know I had to go through the document to figure out where it was. It wasn't a big deal, but now people know where to look.
Mm-hmm.
Alden?
Dr. Roberts?
So Amelia, I've had trouble on the morning of the meetings your email that has the links, because the email comes a week before. I flagged, I look up your name. The way my computer system is set up right now, I'm not sure why this happens, but I don't get all the information that you have sent out. And I had a lot of trouble finding stuff. I had to ask for my policy committee thing again. I'm sure you sent it to me. I still haven't been able to find it. So is there any mechanism that you could send the webinar stuff on the day of the meeting so we can find it easier?
So I
Or
can.
the day before, or even the day before, just some mechanism to find it easier.
I'll try to figure that out. The only way for me to do it through the go-to system is to like update it. So I will try to figure out how to do that. I'm not sure why things disappear in a week in your Outlook though. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, you know, I can search under your name. I can search under the flags because I flag them, and they're not easy to find. Maybe I'm the only one that's having the problem, so we can talk offline.
Use your hammer again, Alden.
Yeah.
Dr. Chung.
Yeah, I just want to also point out that I actually think this works very well overall, and I want to thank Amelia for keeping everything so well organized and sending us the right links. There are a couple of observations that I made that I know that is not something that's attributable to our staff. One is that if you're using Outlook as your email, it separates, you probably figured this out by now, obviously, if you're using Outmail, your mail from focused emails that are sent to you, and the other folder, which is kind of spam-ish, not real spam, but it's kind of general mail. I found that the emails that contain the links to these meetings have been arriving in the other box, which I need to teach myself to check from time to time because I forget about it. There is a setting in Outlook to get rid of the Outlook, or the other folder, which actually makes things a little bit, it could make things more difficult because then you get all this email. So it's kind of a balance. I think we can probably figure this out for ourselves. But nonetheless, I just want to point out that some of those emails end up in that box. And the other thing that happens is that for those of us who are invited to these public meetings as a panelist, again, this is not staff issue. I think it's a GoToMeeting issue. It sends us an email with a link that's unique to us as a panelist. And then when we get a notification for the meeting itself, it sends yet another email with us as an attendee. You have to be careful not to do the attendee one and just do the panelist one. I've noted that in the past because I thought, wait, I thought I just got an email for this. And then it turns out it's a generic email, not addressed to me uniquely. So I found the email that was addressed to me with a unique link. I pasted that on my calendar, and then I'm able to get to these meetings. So, so that's just my personal experience. I have to say overall, maybe I'm one of the few people who have really had very little trouble in terms of the technology. And I would say that the process that Amelia has set up has worked very well. So I want to thank her for paying attention to what our needs are and making sure that we get to all of our meetings on time. So thank you.
Thank you for that last piece of information about that attendee email. I wasn't aware of that, so thank you for that. Teresa?
Yeah, Alden, one of the things that I found, because I have the same problem with the emails kind of disappearing, I did change the settings on it. But one of the other things is that I always send, just say thank you, send an email reply back and say thank you. And what that does is it sends it to my sent folder. And so when the email disappears, for some reason, it's still in my sent folder. And so I can go to my sent folder and find it there. So I don't know, that might be helpful for you.
Yeah, thank you both, Jimmy and Teresa. Those are both great ideas.
Mr. Anderson?
One thing that I am finding helpful is I'm getting these emails that say business meeting starts in 1 hour, and there's not really a link. There's just like a box that says click here to go to webinar, which is the link, and I find that really helpful. And I'm getting that for business meeting, for when the panel meetings start, and it's really helpful because I am the king of scrambling to trying to find stuff and call, freaking out and calling Mike or whatever. But this time went really well.
Awesome. Well, if you ever have any trouble, just reach out to me. I'm usually not on my email during the business meeting. So because I can't run VPN, that's the problem I had earlier. VPN was up and that's why I disappeared. So I can't run my VPN while I'm running the GoToMeeting because it's not reliable. So I can't access my Outlook email while I'm not on VPN. So just letting you know that.
Hey, good morning, guys. Can I add to the beating of this horse?
Yes, go ahead, Dr.
Brown. I have the same exact issues that Alden has. I don't even see the emails that have the business meeting. I don't know if they disappear. I don't know if they come in and disappear. I don't know, Amelia, if I'm in your doghouse, so you just don't send them to me.
The system sends you that email, not me. So if you're not getting it, it may be in that other.
I do apologize for harassing you like every meeting, but I don't get them, and so I actually have to end up asking like one of my colleagues here, like usually like Rick Lane or somebody, hey, can you send me the business packet meeting because I didn't get it.
Let's move on.
I just want to throw out one clarification, Amelia, that the issue with receiving the individual unique email for a panelist and then a duplicate as an attendee, that happens with every GoToMeeting. It's not just a WMC thing. I've been on a number of other organizational GoToMeetings, and the exact same thing happens. And the email is always accompanied by a message saying, this is for you, and then if you get the generic one afterwards, then to just ignore those. And so I was just kind of curious when Dr. Yu earlier couldn't, she said she was in listen only mode, she might have used that link instead of the panelist link, and maybe that's why she got stuck in that position. So just a thought. And then again, it's nothing that you're doing wrong. It's just that how the system works, I think.
Okay, thank you everybody for those comments. Time's getting a little tight. So are there other staff updates? Again, I can't see everybody, so speak up if you have something to say.
So John, this is Bob. Can I just make a quick follow-up to what Jimmy said? Because I've made that mistake before too, but if you're using the wrong link or email as an attendee, what pops up is it asks you to register for the meeting. So if you see that, you know that you're on the wrong one, so to speak, and you need to find the email, as Jimmy said, that's specifically for you as a panelist.
Okay, thank you, Bob. So not hearing from other staff members, I'm going to assume their written reports are true and accurate with no additions. Let's move on to the AAG update report from Heather.
Yeah, I have nothing to report today. Thanks.
That was a time saver. Okay, I think we have accomplished the agenda. Any last comments, questions? I'm going to hurry up and say meeting adjourned because we made it in time. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll go find the other link.